What if the fundamentals you've been taught about strength are wrong? Sifu Bogi challenges the Western obsession with force and control, revealing how ancient practices like Qigong and Tai Chi tap into deeper, more sustainable sources of power. In this conversation, we break down how breath, movement, and the Tao, spelled Tao or Dao, and how the Tao itself reshapes your approach to health, resilience, and even success. Together, we explore topics such as the difference between Tai Chi and Qigong, perhaps more importantly, what they can do for you, your health, and your life, the adaptive nature of Qigong, how you can speed up your practice to rev up and gain energy, or to slow down and experience more of a meditative state and healing. The power of small intentional actions and how they can lead to profound growth, following the Taoist principle of Wu Wei. And of course, we bring in some of the perspective of modern science into these practices as well. Our guest this week is Sifu Bogi. He's a Taoist guide, mentor, self-healing practitioner with over 40 years of experience in Taoism and Qigong. He was trained by renowned masters and specializes in Qigong, Tai Chi, Sun Tao philosophy, Reiki, reflexology, Tuna, Tit-tar, acupressure, Taoist shamanism, and I'm sure some other things I can't even pronounce. His teachings blend Taoist wisdom with practical energy and bodywork techniques, guiding you to unlock your own healing potential. With a diverse background from law enforcement to baking, he brings humor, storytelling, and deep insight to help others find balance, transformation, and self-discovery. You can find everything we discuss in the show notes for this episode, which will be at mindbodypeak.com/203. If you want to check out his school, it is called Shun Tao Mystery School, and a link to that will be in the show notes as well. As a side note to you, since the interview, I actually implemented some of his movement routines into my day, and I've been doing them for about 2 weeks consecutively now. And at the very least, it's been a nice way to help accelerate my recovery from training and to de-stress after long days. If you're able, you might want to check out the YouTube version as he demonstrates the proper actions, how to do the movements that we explore together throughout the episode. That can be a helpful resource, or you can check out his mystery school, which will again be linked in the show notes. All right, with that out of the way, let's relax, de-stress, and unlock our flow state with Sifu. Sifu, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Today, we're going to dive into a world that I've only recently began to explore, and that is the world of the Tao, you could say. Perhaps we'll talk about flow, maybe Qigong, Tai Chi. To get started today, what is something unusual that you've done for your health, your performance, and your bioharmony?
Probably for me, lots of things I've done, I wouldn't say unusual, but probably to lots of people. So I love to take activated charcoal. That's one I do regularly. And I mean, unusual for a lot of people, probably doing Qigong and doing the stuff I do.
All right, well, we'll get right into it then. What are Qigong and Tai Chi, and why do you do them?
Okay, so lots of people have heard of Tai Chi, and Qigong. If Qigong was music, Tai Chi would be a style of music. So Tai Chi would be a little bit like classical music. Another way of saying it is that Tai Chi is lots of Qigongs put together. So hence why I like use the term musical, like musical notes, is that Tai Chi is lots of different exercises put together to do in a flowing way. And in fact, that symbol you just sort of distantly see in the corner is, I'll bring it over, which is, a lot of people call this yin yang, but its actual name is Tai Chi, this symbol. So this one, a lot of people call yin yang. And even a lot of teachers call it yin yang. it has yin yang elements. The yin is, I was going to fall off there. Oh well, the yin is the black, the yang is the white, and it's called Tai Chi because when they come together, they create harmony, and they move and twist. And you can see this as night and day. And in the nighttime, you have stars, and in the daytime, you have shadows. So Tai Chi is a representation of lots of things coming together as one. Where Qigong, for those who are a little bit, into tech, it's like an app. It is you've got a bad back, there's a Qigong for that. You got a headache, you've got sore knees, there's a Qigong for that. You want to improve your respiration, your lungs, there's a Qigong for that. You want to improve, or you want to have a psychedelic experience, there's a Qigong for that, because we already have those chemicals in our brain. Don't need outside sources. So there is a Qigong for everything. Tai Chi is a mixture of those different exercises wrapped into one.
Yeah. And so for people who have no idea what this is still, how would you describe what this practice is, and how it's working, what it's doing?
Right. So Qigong means breath work or working with breath. Now, you do exercise, and lots of people do exercise, but in case studies done back in the 80s and 90s, they realized with what makes Qigong difference is when you harmonize your breath with your movements and you actually use focus and meditation as well, you're creating a trinity. You're creating this biofeedback of the body harmonizing with the breath, and then the body starts to activate the blood cells in a certain way. The brain works in a certain way. You start to get left and right hemisphere balance, and it becomes this. That symbol becomes this harmony. So what Qigong does is actualizing your breath, harmonizing the body, balancing all the systems. We say energy systems, but you use epigenetics or quantum physics. We're actually talking about bioelectric magnetic field of the body that exists. We know the heart creates one, and it harmonizes that far more because we actually have three minds. This one up here, one in your heart, you have brain cells in your heart, and you also have brain cells in your gut. And the trinity that the East talks about, and Taoism they talk about, is the balance of heart, mind, and consciousness. The balance of those three.
What's beautiful too is that this not long ago was a concept, and of course there's the real life applications and results people get, but now we can look at brainwaves through EEG and other things. We can actually see in real time as people perform these, they develop brain-heart coherence, and we can actually see the rhythm of the brain and the heart synchronizing and becoming more smooth as it looks on the EEG.
And especially, I find it I love science and I love spirituality. I love this stuff. But it's great with the epigenetics, so the understanding that the way you think and feel literally affects your physical health. And obviously quantum physics, like 1974 in quantum physics, they looked at the atom, and the 99.999% of the atom that they said was empty space, they actually realized it was connected to everything else, what they call the quantum field. But the quantum field, you can call that many things. The Tao calls it the Tao. Everything is connected to everything else. So you start connecting all your cells together, then we can connect ourselves together. Everything balances.
You're a man of many passions and abilities. Will you please describe what the Tao is now? Because that's another topic that people might have heard of, but it's a little mystical if you haven't actually dived into it.
Right. So in the West, we sometimes also call it Tao because it's spelled two different ways, Tao or Dao, because there's a silent T in it. But Tao, every Chinese word has about 3 to 5 meanings. Which makes it really fun to try to read something. But the Tao means the way, the path, the balance. And it's, again, a little bit like this symbol, the Tao is not something that's set. This is actually meant to rotate. and it's meant to flow. It's be like a wave. And the Tao is always progressing. Your way, like you're not the same as you were a year ago. You're not the same as you were 10 years ago. And you won't be the same in a year, 10 years' time. Your Tao changes, you change, but the Tao is living in accordance to your nature and your environment, whether we're talking about your room, your house, your country, your planet. But it's sort of talking about learning how to adapt to the different natures. And so that's the main essence of the Tao. But it's a little bit like Bruce Lee once said, which is a Taoist saying, it's like a finger pointing towards the moon. So it's only a guide, this information, that's Sifu, just a guide. I'm pointing towards the moon. I'm not a master. I don't like that word, master. I'm a guide. I help you on your journey. I'm on that journey with you, but it's your journey.
That's one of the things I love about your work. When I was looking at your background, that you don't say, oh, I have all the solutions, the prescription for you. It's like, okay, here is the blueprint. Now do with it what you want and what feels right, what resonates, and adapt, because ultimately we have our innate wisdom. And by becoming more attuned to it, we can find, and we do find, the right path forward.
There is no one solution. That's like saying there's only one food in the world, or the best food in the world is strawberry. And it's like, well, it depends on you. It depends on what you're into. So how my teachers, so the Shun Dao, my school, the Shun Dao is a nod to my Sifus. Shun was their surname, but it also means to flow or fold. And also Dao means the way. So it's the flowing way or folding way. And they very much believed, especially when it comes to healing. So in healing, I know Tuina, Chinese massage, Tikta, which is like Chinese osteopath. Then I also do acupressure, reflexology. I do lots of different techniques. And some people say, these are contradictory. And it's like, nothing is contradictory unless you want it to be, because you think one thing's better than the other. So why I bring this up is that when I do healing, I come from 4 different angles. I add 4 different things, or I'll give you 4 different Qigongs and see which one resonates with you the most. Rather than saying you must do this one, this is the one forward. How do I know? I'm not you. But I can hear from your voice, see from your actions, see from what you tell me. Oh, right, well, this might work, this one might work. Try these, and let's go from there.
Yeah. So what is the practical application? I know this is a very elementary question for you. The practical application of the Tao and of Tai Chi. Or maybe not Tai Chi, but Qigong.
Practical application of the Tao is to adapt the best you possibly can to thrive in life, not survive. The Tao is, George Lucas actually based Star Wars on the Tao, and the Jedi were a Taoist. Even the word the Force was based on Qi. So you have the light and the dark side of the Force. Where is that symbol again? It's the yin and the yang. It's this, the light and the dark side. And so the whole idea of a Taoist is that everything we do has a practical application, an emotional application, and a concept or a consciousness application. So it's mind, body, and spirit. And so the whole idea is that it all interacts. Now, practical applications of Qigong or Tai Chi, very, very easy. If you've ever watched the new one, but if you've ever watched the old Karate Kid, remember, wipe on, wipe off, is that everything you do can become a Qigong. So I'll try to do this without making too much of an issue, but to fold up clothes, so get them breathing in, breathing out, breathing in and out, breathing in and out, and then placing it without creating tension in the body. So the whole point of Qigong is that it's learning to relax your body. Our goal is to stretch our tendons, because our tendons in the Eastern concept store toxins, store emotional tension. So we stretch the tendons. That's why when you stretch, you feel better because you're stretching, or at least that's what they say. You're stretching the body. When we relax the muscles store physical tension, and our fluids store spirit, shen. So they're storing everything else, all our thoughts and our consciousness. So when we relax the body, we relax the mind. When we relax the mind, we relax the spirit. When we release the tensions, when we move and twist and turn, the body actually starts to improve and enhance. And we know that when we feel better, so Qigong, Tai Chi basically makes you feel better. And it makes you feel better, your body will start going into thrive mode. It will start healing. It will start getting stronger. We know through lots of case studies that when we're in fear, our body shuts down and we get stiff and tense. And in the East, they say that stillness, or tense, anxious stillness, leads to dis-ease. Everything no longer being in balance. So moving and flowing, and I'm always doing it all the time. In actual fact, I actually sit on a yoga ball because it's far more beneficial for your spine. So
I've got one right here also.
So and so you often, I used to do podcasts myself, and I'd be doing this all the time. Why can't you sit still? Funny enough is that we were told by children, as children, we were told, sit still, be rigid. That causes that tension, and our muscles start tightening up, and our blood flow is reduced, our oxygen flow is reduced. So being smooth and flowing and relaxing, and even twitching if you need to, because twitching, just releasing tension within your body. All of this helps you flow. So what Tai Chi does, it gives you that premise or how to do it in a certain way, to how to move in a certain way. And so it's not really a hobby, it's a way of being.
One thing this conversation is making me realize is that the mind and the body are often running perpendicular to each other. They're inversely correlated. So if you're keeping your body very still, then your mind wanders, which is why kids have such a hard time focusing and staying on track, and instead they daydream during class. But then if you move your body, then your mind can quiet, which is why a lot of athletes say that when they're like really exerting themselves physically, all of a sudden they slow down and they mentally slow down. They have peace and inner stillness and quiet. And some people call it the flow state, but it also is interesting that you would expect that when you're just relaxed, you're sitting still, that you get to there, but it's actually more difficult for most people. Yeah.
Still body, moving mind. Moving body, still mind. So the whole idea is that, if your body's moving, you can focus, you can start to zero in, and you're releasing all that tension. But when we're sitting still, it's all being pushed up into our head. Now, in the East, they call this the forebrain, they call it the monkey mind, the ego. And we know in psychology, we know that the forebrain has 60 to 90,000 thoughts every single day. So that's a lot of freaking thoughts running through your head. So this is why they talk about leaning back. So, learning to relax the body and drawing your intention out of the forebrain and into the back of the head, or they talk about into the heart or into the belly, because they talk about heart mind being like remember in the cartoons, you had the angel on one shoulder and the devil on the other, where like the devil's on like the ego, the monkey mind, whispering, 10,000 thoughts, panic. Intuition is more the angel, but it whispers, and therefore you need to be quiet to hear it. So when you allow yourself to sink to the heart, when you allow yourself to relax and come out of this forebrain, you relax more. When we create that tension, we're pushing ourselves up into the top of the head. We're pushing ourselves up into the monkey mind. But when we allow ourselves to move and twist, our flow is bringing it all back down. But as any good Taoist should say, hey, what do I know?
I like that. So one of the themes that I'm hearing you repeat is that a lot of this is about movement. It doesn't need to be a structured, intense, all-out, grueling workout, but a lot of times it's actually the opposite. As one of my teachers, Paul Chek, mentions, he calls it working in, and you can make any movement at least in his framework, a Qigong style movement. If you reduce the intensity so that your heart rate is not getting elevated, the saliva on your tongue should remain there. Your tongue should stay moist, and you want to coordinate the in-breaths and the out-breaths with the movement as well. But it seems like you can really turn most things into some kind of Qigong style movement.
You know, we are art. We are, so, you know, our body, you know, this amazing organism that we're living, you know, it is a work of art. It is amazing. And you are art yourself. But, you know, when you see that beauty, when you allow yourself to relax and go and flow with it, our society always tries to put things in box, you know, what's right and wrong, left and right, masculine, feminine. And the universe just is. Very quick example. We have 2 huskies, and the mum gave birth to 6 beautiful pups, and she did everything on her own. You know, I won't go through gruesome details, but you know all the process that happens when a female gives birth and what has to happen to make sure the baby's okay. She did that all on her own. She's a husky. Who taught her? How did she know exactly what to do? You know, is that, you know, I knew what to do because I studied it, but how did she know what to do? I don't speak doc. I didn't tell her. So how did she know? Well, yeah, and that's the thing. How does nature know what to do? And in the same sort of scenarios, we haven't got a clue because they're tuned into that innate knowledge. You can say it's in the Tao. You can say it comes from the God, the banana, whatever. But it's there somewhere. That knowledge exists. And there's lots of information that, you know, like we found out in the last 20 years about, you know, about ourselves. That the heart is actually more of an electrical magnetic field. And when that expands, all our cells start to thrive. When that contracts, all our cells start to break down. So our illness is actually, it's very scary for a lot of people, but we are causing our own illness by the way we're thinking and feeling. So we change the way we think and feel, we can change our health on a minimum or a dramatic scale. I mean, it's a bit of a thin ice subject, but I've known many people with cancer, leukemia. You know, I have cancer and or leukemia, and one in particular, my father, he's now passed away, but he got diagnosed of throat cancer, and he was doing Qigong, and people with throat cancer tend to only last 5 years. He was around 15 years, and he's to the point where sadly he passed away in the height of COVID. But his surgeon said, to be honest, Mr. Brighton, because that's my surname, he said, to be honest, Mr. Brighton, I'm surprised she's still alive. You know, is that it's not, you know, it's not what are you doing? And he said, oh, my dad, my son stuff, Qigong or Tai Chi or something like that. And he goes, and because they know that it has a correlation with the whole body, it can affect the whole body. That, you know, if you actually look up Tai Chi Qigong and just put Tai Chi 4 and name an illness, and you'll see most illnesses have Tai Chi, you know, that there are case studies showing that it affects the whole nervous system, it affects the whole body. And anything that affects the whole body will affect that illness, that disease in some way or the other. So the way you think and feel, the way you move, the way you grow, the way you flow is down to you, but it's also the way what you do is up to you.
Well, anything that impacts the nervous system in general has the potential to impact the whole body. Well, this is awesome. I'm going to look more into Tai Chi and Qigong for all these different conditions, and perhaps also for health and overall performance, and longevity is probably a big one too. If people are trying to wrap their head around this, can you list off some of the things that it can help or improve? Obviously, it's not going to be a conclusive list because it sounds like help just about everything, but some of the big ones that it's like especially effective for.
As a child, I suffered from big exciting stress. And from that, I got mouth ulcers, which were leading into stomach ulcers. I got IBS, irritable bowel syndrome. And those I have regulated, and they're almost non-existent for me since I was a kid. I was born in 1970, so I didn't get diagnosed with dyslexia until I was 32 years old. And again, they said, well, what coping mechanisms? You must have very good coping mechanisms, which is it was very hard to detect. It's there, but you seem to be coping with it. And, well, I do this, and the whole idea is that the qigong and the tai chi, it helps the mind, it helps focus, it helps things like fibromyalgia. So anybody with chronic pain, it's very good for ME, MS, fibromyalgia. It helps people. My dad had diabetes, and it helped balance his diabetes as well. So again, it's easier just put in those words and put a illness and see what comes up. And it helps. It's either significantly helps or it can help to a certain degree, pretty much most illnesses.
Yeah. And again, very highly tied to the state of the nervous system. But if you are reducing stress, that improves just about everything also, because disease is often correlated with inflammation and stress. So you fix that, then everything improves.
Yeah, very much. And because it's a breathing exercise with moving, and so I think the interesting thing for me was I've had I know people who do yoga, and like you say, when you're doing yoga, what are you thinking about? I said, well, I'm still thinking of the shopping, or I'm still doing this. And it's like, okay, come and do this. And it's like, what were you thinking? Didn't have time to think. You had me doing this, and you were doing this, and time to think. And it's like, that is that this needs to be distracted, and with movement now there are still ones of this qigong. It's called Shanzhong, stand like a tree, or standing stake. And when people are doing this, like most of the time, like after about a minute, they go, but eventually, the longer you focus on it and do it, the more the better you get at it. But the whole idea is, even when you're still, I'm relaxing the body. I'm thinking of, I'm all this tension there, and sinking the shoulders and relaxing the butt. And it's all about just feeling rather than thinking.
So we've mentioned how this can be de-stressing and regulating the nervous system. Do people ever use Qigong to go the opposite direction, say for energizing, like before physical performance, maybe athletes?
So in the Tao, going back to the Tao, because Qigong, Tai Chi, Neigong, there's lots of different versions, are all part of the Tao. So when in the East, they could talk about the arts. Like we hear the word martial arts and we think, fighting. Martial is practice, something you're doing over and over again. It's about conformity. Art is about flow, the beauty. So martial art is a practice, it's something you're practicing over and over again that creates a beautiful flow, a beautiful thing. For most martial artists, it's not, and most teachers, it's not about fighting, it's about personal development. And Bruce Lee, again, I use Bruce Lee a lot. Bruce Lee would say that himself. It's about personal development. Now, within the Taoist concept, they actually talk about the 3 M's. You have martial art, medical art, and meditational art. So the same exercise that could help.
Can you explain this for people who are listening to the audio version?
So what I'm doing, I'm now, if you're in a seat with no arms, you can do this, or if you gently stand, bend your knees, pull in your bum, and turn your waist, your belly button upwards, from the left to the right, and totally allow your arms to flop. Don't control your arms, totally allow them to flop. Now, I've taught this to people in wheelchairs or who are have struggle standing, and so it's the idea of as long as you can sort of Move your arms side to side without hitting the arms of the chair. Or it's all good. If you're on a stool or a yoga ball, you can definitely do this. So twist the waist. It is said to be, rumored to be, at least 10,000 years old. This exercise, or there's pictures of it, they're going back that far. And the healing side, it massages the internal organs. It also works the central nervous system that runs through the spine. It helps the neck, shoulders, back, head. It improves blood circulation. It helps balance the body. It has a lot of different benefits on the healing side. Meditation side, put the TV on or put some music on, stand outside, do this for 5 minutes, and you'll zone out. You'll just twist the waist and just don't try to count how many you're doing, or you could do, but if you put an alarm clock on and just do it for 5 minutes, at first your brain may struggle, but actually you'll just zone out, and that's meditation. Doing one thing and forget everything else is a meditation. This same movement, if somebody was to push me here, just a bit like, Karate Kid, they push me here, this arm comes up and whacks them on the back of the head. So by relaxing the body mechanics is actually, you're using your body mechanics. And that's why, as a fighting style, Tai Chi is about using your opponent's energy against them. So it's all about body mechanics. So if they're coming for a strike and I deflect, I can gently pull them and they'll keep going. So it's about using the principles of Tai Chi, which is everything's all interconnected. So when somebody tries to use force, you can use that force against them.
Okay. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And for those tuning into the audio version, this is one you might want to watch the YouTube version, because these exercises are pretty simple. They're hard to describe over audio. I'm sure I'll also link in the show notes some resources you can check out for other simple movements. I was actually about to ask you that if there were any beginner movements, Qigong movements, that are almost universally beneficial. It sounds like that might be one of them.
That would definitely be one of them. One that I've described. So I've actually taught Qigong to many people, people with wheelchairs, people with limbs missing. Also taught it to the blind. So this is for the blind. So if you're seated, this might help if you can stand. But if you're seated, we can work around this. So rub your hands together, breathe in, let your belly expand. Breathe out, pull your belly in. So breathe in, let your belly expand, opening up your diaphragm fully. Breathe out, pull your belly in, so you're pushing all the air out and still rubbing your hand for another 3, 2, 1. Breathing out, so put the rubbed hands onto the smalls of your back, so on the back, just above your bum cheeks. Breathe in, feel that warmth go into your back. Breathe out, rub the hands 2 more times. Rubbing the hands as you breathe out. Then the hands back on the back, breathe in. 1 more time. Rub the hands, breathe out. Hands back on the back, breathe in. Now again, this will be easier if you're standing up. But if you're in a chair, if you can, draw a big circle of your hips. So your bum, your hips, so push slightly forward, to the side and back. Push slightly forward, to the side and back. Now we're going to make it Qigong. So breathe into your left, you get to the front, then breathe out to your right, you go to the back. So when you're ready, breathe into the left, go to the front, breathe out the right, then go to the back. So circling around to the front, to the left, breathe in, circling around to the back, breathe out for another 3, 2, and 1. Breathing in to the front, breathing out to the back. When you get to the back, go the other way. So now circle the other way. Breathing in to your right, breathing out to your left, circling around the best you can. Now again, if you're standing, you can really, bending the knees slightly, keep the feet flat on the floor, you can really circle those hips around. Now, what this is doing, you're opening and closing your hips. So you're stretching all the muscles in your legs. You're also stretching the bottom of the spine, so especially the lower lumbar. So back problems, this is very good for. Even sore knees, poor circulation knees or feet, this is very good for. If you're a lady, if you're female, this is very good for the menstrual cycle as well. So it helps actually. It helps the menstrual cycle, so it helps the ovaries increase balance of the blood flow. This also can be good for blood circulation and also good to it's helping massage the internal organs. So get to the back. I want to do one more time the other way. So 3, breathe in, breathe out.
So with these, do you want to make your movement especially slow, or do you want to make your breath a little shorter? Because you can have a 10-second inhale, 10-second exhale, or you can have a 3-second inhale, 3-second exhale.
So traditionally, you match your movements to your breath. So you match your movements to your breath. But the slower you go, the more meditative it becomes. The quicker you go, the more physical it becomes, or the more fitness it becomes. Because you mentioned that again earlier about, I like fitness. Well, if you do with Qigong Tai Chi, the slower you do it, it becomes more of a meditation, and it will start to activate the melatonin, which is your pineal gland, which helps you sleep. It will actually start to activate that, and you'll become more in a meditative or restful state. The quicker you go, still using the breath and the movement, the quicker you go, it increases your adrenaline, so it increases your build-up of energy, and it actually makes you more ready to go. So fast is fighting or fitness, slow is healing or sleeping.
Is it a practice that people use to start off at a certain speed and then to slow down as they get more into their body?
Yes. So remember, the Tao is your way. So the whole idea is that, I mean, I teach it at, for me, a fast pace. Because like I say, it's like, you haven't seen my speed. It's like, when I do my speed, I'm slowing it down and because the slower you move, the more it's actually increasing the muscle power, and it's increasing tendon power. So because there's like a simple, like we talked about this standing still exercise, there's an exercise, again, trying to describe it for those on audio. So it's more than shoulder width stance, and then I bend my knees, making sure my knees don't go past my toes, and my feet are pointing 45 degrees outwards, where my knees are facing that same direction, and that's called horse stance. And then I place my hands up above my eyelids, and my arms are in the same direction as my legs. So my left arm is 45 degrees to the left, my right arm is 45 degrees to the right, with the hands up to my eyelids, dropping the elbows so they're lower than the shoulders to take away tension, pulling in the bum, making sure my back is straight, so it's like I'm sitting on a chair. Try to see how long you can hold that for. Because it's known that 5 minutes of doing that stance is like doing 15 minutes of running, because it actually increases the blood circulation. Your blood circulation starts to pump because you're standing still. Gravity pushes the blood down, but the heart has to then push it back up. So you'll start to feel your heart start beating, and you'll start to go, oh, I'm starting to sweat. I used to, it was a little bit of Sifu style bullying. I used to teach weightlifters this one. And, they'll be in that position and they'll be in it 5 minutes and they're sweating. This sounds more than weight. This is more than 100 K. Why is it hurting so much? But, it's like, what are you doing to me? As their brain explodes. And it's like, it's body mechanics. But, the whole idea of that actually using your own body as your weightlifting equipment, then using it in a way that you can increase your adrenaline and increase, if you've heard of the Iceman, Wim Hof, he's using techniques that were taught in Qigong and taught is about increasing blood circulation. So what we call the fire way is increasing the circulation so you build up that energy or you build up your body temp. So if you're somewhere very cold and you don't have much on, there are techniques that you can increase your blood circulation. The other way is you can also reduce your circulation or reduce the temperature and lower the heartbeat if necessary. We can do this. It's just we forgot how. It's fun to remember.
Yeah. That's cool too, because that's another pose. Are they called pose? No, they're not called poses. It's another. Okay, yeah. What's the actual term for it?
It would be a stance. It
Okay.
would be, yes. I've done many things. One of the things I've done is figure skating. So yes, there very much you'd be in a pose, wouldn't you? A pose or a stance. But yes,
Okay.
martially we prefer the word stance. I think it's a stance rather than the pose.
Okay, yeah, that's a stance you can do when you're, say, watching TV or you're in a confined space where you don't have enough room to exercise in the traditional sense, but you can hold a horse stance or something like that and also get the benefits of a 15-minute run in just 5 minutes.
I'm notoriously known. I've had students pick me up before, and I mean doing certain moves and stances. It's like, I can't get you from anywhere, Sifu, without you doing some weird stuffing. But just a bit like the Jedi or a bit like the Matrix. I'm doing all this stuff. Nobody's paying any attention because nobody, our ego, our monkey mind, makes you think, you look silly. Nobody cares, really. You just look a bit weird and then they move on. It's about you. It's how you feel. And if you think it's silly, you make it silly. But if you just think it's my exercise, it's what I do. But you can hide it as well. There's definitely you standing in a position where it's called hugging the tree, but it looks like you can read a book in this position. And, there are definitely, that's again going back to Tai Chi and Qigong is a bit like a ninja. You can do these movements while I was a baker 20 years ago. And as I was baking that horse stance you was talking about, I would make the dough while in horse stance and doing certain things while, like Mr. Miyagi in Karate Kid, I'd be using those stances and doing certain things at the same time.
Cool. Can you get into trouble using Qigong, like doing the wrong stances and poses?
Trouble as in?
Take yourself more out of balance, further out of balance, or to, create issues that weren't there before if you're doing it properly.
Yes, but the but is that if you're a true practitioner listens to your own body, and there's very much a Taoist saying, never go past the point of pain. Go past the point of ache, but not pain. So if something aches. Aching is good. It means you've stretched your tendons. You've allowed your body to stretch slightly. But pain is not. Now, there is a contradiction in Shaolin arts. So the monks that wear the orange robes, the Shaolin arts, they always say, work harder, more chi. Don't care if your head's falling off. More chi. And so they do what's called Zen or Chan in Chinese, which is pure focus. You push through. You can push through those limits. And there is this understanding that, is that you can achieve anything if you put your mind to it. Is that what is right and wrong? It's we say, oh, this is bad for you. Well, it's only bad if you don't know how to adapt to it or how you can change. But Taoistically, we believe don't push yourself into pain. We don't believe in hurting yourself. So listen to your body. So if you're doing something and it feels wrong, look at it to check it. What are you doing wrong? What was it? Or ask your Sifu, and the whole idea is that we're meant to listen to our bodies. Very much the Tao is about listening to the universe, being in accordance to nature, your nature. So be in accordance to your own body. So, obviously there are certain things I can do that you can't do, and certain things you can do I can't do. So you listen to your body and you listen to, but saying that, like for some people that wild horse dance, getting down so your thighs are flat, level, probably be very painful at first. But if you do it slowly and gently and progressively, which is the waterway in Taoism, is drip, drip, drip. A little bit every single day. You want to do 500 press-ups, don't do it in one day. Start off with a couple, and every day or every week, add another one. And within a period of time, you'll be doing 500 press-ups easily. So it's the whole idea of taking things at a flowing, gradual rate rather than trying to push yourself too hard.
It's interesting, the modern science parallels to the Taoist wisdom, like in weight training, the concept of progressive overload, where in order to get stronger, you have to increase resistance or repetitions, more time under tension for the muscles. So it's kind of like the same thing that you were just saying about, like, you wouldn't do 500 press-ups on your first day, but you work your way up to it.
And then from that understanding is like nothing is impossible. Is that, like you can build up to anything. There's it's both in Taoist and also in Japan, the ninja, which is a real thing. The ninjas were very, very much, you want to jump like from standing 15 foot. You start off with a little hole and you jump 500 times in and out of that hole. And every day you take out a cupful of dirt until eventually you've reached your 15 foot. And I will promise you, because not 15 foot, it was 8 foot, but there was one time that I wanted to test this theory. So I did start digging this hole until I got to 8 foot, and I could jump up from standing 8 foot. Well, now I'll be lucky if I do 8 inches because I haven't done it for 30 years. But I proved anything is possible. You can do these things, and it's all about, just think of any skill that you do now. Remember right at the very beginning where you thought, oh, blimey, I'm not sure I can do that. You proved yourself right then, you can prove yourself right again. Anything's possible, but it's little and often, as the Taoist would say, the waterway.
Yeah. Okay. What are some other practical Taoist tips or like life philosophies?
One of my favorites is why stress, or why get angry, or why worry. So worry leads to anxiety. Anxiety leads to tension in your body. Tension over a period of time will lead to illness. Illness over a period of time will lead to death. So why worry? Why get angry and kill you? That whole idea, is like the way we think and feel goes back to epigenetics. The way we think and feel literally affects our health. And another one that rolls on from that is why worry about the past? It's already happened. Why worry about the future? It hasn't happened yet. And I always like to add, unless you've got a time machine or your name's the doctor, or you've got a DeLorean, you can't do anything about those two. But what you can do is about the now, live in the now and focus on the now, because that's where everything's happening. Everything's always happening in the now. We mentioned it already, but the way tension in the body leads to tension in the mind, leads to tension. So if you want a free mind, have a free body. Relax your body, twist the body. Relax the body, relaxes the emotions, relaxes the mind. Again, another one, fidget. So in Taoism, again, you have the divine masculine, the divine feminine, and the sacred child. And I'm not talking about what gender you are. I'm talking about qualities or energies. The divine masculine energy is the asserting, is the action, is getting things done. And it's also like the protecting, but not necessarily in a fighting way, just standing up for yourself or standing up for others. That's very masculine, the divine masculine. The feminine is about feeling, the nurturing. So you start something with the masculine, you keep it going with the feminine, the nurturing energy. or of you. And then the sacred child, well, the sacred child is all about inspiration, like the child, oh, wow, oh, look at the box. Look at this.
Childlike curiosity.
Exactly. And that's where inspiration, I mean, I don't know about you, I've had children come up to me with ingenious ideas. It's like, where did you get that from? And also, very much think outside the box. So allow yourself to have that childlike quality. Allow yourself to have that nurturing quality. Allow yourself to get things done and have the action. So it's the trinity. Those three are really important, but balance is really important. If you're all action, you'll have no feeling about it, and you might, if you're doing, you don't give yourself time to go, I need to change that, or I need to adapt. So it's all about the flow.
Yeah, and I think these days the balance is tipped much more in favor of doing and going and charging forward rather than introspection and relaxation and attuning to the subtleties with things like Qigong.
There's a very famous philosophy called Wu Wei, and it's often mistranslated, but it's Wu Wei is often translated as do nothing and everything will be done. And people go, well, how does that work? It's not actually. The better translation is do little and everything is done. Think of a domino. 1 point, you move 1 point and that domino effect will, the butterfly effect. The butterfly flaps its wings and somewhere else in the world there's a hurricane. From little actions, and it goes back to the Tai Chi about using the opponent's energy against them, is that if you think about the way things are, when I'm massaging somebody, I'm scanning the whole body, feeling where their tension is, and I'm looking for that point where I can go onto one thing and trigger everything else. So you want to learn something. What's the basics of that? Well, what's the key principles of that? For example, is like, I want to run 100 miles. Well, probably the first thing would be learn how to breathe when running. Because if you can breathe and run in a way that you tire yourself out less and less, you'll achieve that goal better. Rather than we think, no, brute force, keep running until my legs fall off. It's that by actually learning, well, what's the technique? What's the overall principle? What do I need to learn? And it's like taking that step back. Look at the bigger picture in the Tao all the time. Look at the bigger picture, the Wu Wei. Do little and everything is done. Is find what you need to do and minimize it. So you only need to do a few steps to build up. So this is where the Water Wei comes from. Do a little bit every single day, and over 100 days, you will be 100 times better than you were even 5 minutes. And a lot of people will say, I don't have any time to do Qigong. I can guarantee I can find 5 minutes in your day. I can actually guarantee I can find 15 minutes. They might not all be together, but I can definitely find them. And if I really look hard enough, I can probably find a whole hour. Because how many times do we sit there stand there waiting for the kettle, or scratching your head, or sitting there watching mind-numbing TV that you don't even remember what you watched? And there's always time to learn something. And you want to learn a language, learn 3 words a day. Learn 3 words a day. In 100 days, how many words you got? And in a whole year, how many words you got? So the whole idea is that you want to learn something, learn it gradually. Golden pill, people want to everything in one go. It doesn't work. Not really. 1 or 2 people it does, but for most people, build it up. Do it the flowing way.
I really like your example of the runner, and instead of just going out and pounding the pavement and trying to get more and more miles, taking a step back, returning to first principles, deciding, okay, what are the most important components to work on to optimize before I start putting on the miles? Because if you look at a lot of like the best runners, they're not necessarily putting in insane amounts of mileage. Like my buddy Anthony Kunkel is an ultramarathon runner, and of course he runs a lot, but like a lot of it is the stuff around the running. And first he got his breathing down, after his breathing, then he had to get his gait down. If you have a faulty gait pattern, you're not heel striking or whatever the latest optimized approach is, then each time you take a step on your 10 miles or whatever it is, you're going to be taking yourself further out of balance. You're going to be adding resistance and drag. And if you just take a little bit of time to learn the basics, the fundamentals first, then everything you stack on top of that is much more effective.
100%. 100%. Funny enough, I mean, I have taught in the past Tai Chi sports and using the Tai Chi principles in sports. And there is actually a thing called the Taoist run, where, you know, the whole idea is like a lot of people when running tend to like, they're grasping their hands and their hands are up here, or they're doing this. And that's actually creating a lot of tension in their body. The more you can relax the body, the more energy, the more energy you have. And the same with the running technique is that you actually you're falling onto the next foot rather than pounding your feet. Because when you pound your feet, you're pounding your knees, you're going to wear your knee joints, your hip joints away. And and there's a couple of like breathing mechanisms, but one of my favorite is as you're running, you breathe in and you let the motion of you running knock your air out. So rather than which is you're actually creating more tension in your heart and you're actually building up the tension in the lungs. But breathe in, and then as you run, you lose two-thirds, half to 2/3 of the air, and then you breathe back in again. So it's called the Taoist breath run. And so you breathe in, run, 2/3 gone, breathe back in again. 2/3 gone, breathe back in again. So this way, your lungs are not actually being forced to push air in and out all the time. You're only inhaling in. You're actually using less energy, and you'll actually run a lot longer.
Sifu, I want to pull on a thread that you mentioned earlier, and that is worrying and tension in the body, because it's one thing to hear, oh yeah, just don't worry, because no one wants to worry. It feels like it's an involuntary response that happens. You mentioned that oftentimes there's tension in the body correlated with that. I learned a long time ago that the feelings, the mental label actually results after the tension builds. There's the tension, and then we go to label and figure out what it is. Like, oh, okay, this is the worry, this is the fear, this is the depression, whatever it is. Is Qigong like inserting a wedge there by like doing some of these movements and poses and stances? Are you able to like quell the tension and thus change the feeling associated with it?
Short answer, yes. So I've been doing this for many years, and I think most people would say, of course, if you're so laid back, you know, if you was any more laid back, we think we need to bury her. You know, is that so I'm super chilled? But he's like, as a kid, I would worry a lot. And these exercises and the metaphors and everything definitely helps to, it's NLP, neuro-linguistic programming. It's helping you reset the way you do things. But there was a great one like you were saying about, you know, if you do worry and stress, try this technique. Is that, so that belly breathing, if you remember the belly breathing, which is simply, or if you can, you don't have to, but if you can, put your hands on your belly, breathe in, let your belly expand, breathe out, pull your belly in. So breathing in, let the belly expand, breathing out, gently pull the belly in. Now, when we do this, like pulling the belly in, we're actually tightening up the muscles. So we're actually making sure we're actually tightening the diaphragm and tightening the body up. And as we're breathing in and let the belly expand, we're actually filling the lungs. A lot of people go, oh, I'm making a fat belly. No, do the opposite. Pull the muscles in as well, and you'll still tighten that body. But while you're doing that belly breathing in and belly expand, breathing out, pull the belly in, look up, look towards the sky, and carry on breathing in, belly expand, breathing out, pull the belly in. Now, we know through actual medical case studies that when we look up, we're tipping the head back, and the fluids, everything's building up, especially because of the forebrain, 60 to 90,000 thoughts. When we look up, we start to drain the fluids out of the brain. It goes down the spinal column, but that is down, down the spine, down into the body. So looking up, breathing in, let the belly expand, breathing out, pull the belly in for another 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then gently just bring the head back down. And I twist the neck or move the neck and just see how you feel. And, the whole idea of whenever you're getting too much, whenever you're getting too tense, also check your breath. Are you breathing? Because we tend, when we tense and worried and anxious, we tend to go, oh, and stop breathing or holding that tension in. So that twist the waist, which is that one, when I treat Qigong, that helps loosen the body. The hula hoop is helping loosening the hips, our hips. Whether you're male, female, banana or goat, your hips are your birthing center, your creativity. So when we're blocked in the hips, because also in the hips goes up the spinal column, all the fluids go up the spine. So there's tension in your hips. It's blocking your spinal fluids. It's blocking all that needs to go up and then go back down again. So this moving and twisting and turning and allow things to soften up. That's how you release physical tension. You'll start to release the emotional and the spiritual tension.
That's cool. I also studied the older medical system of Ayurveda. It's at least 5,000 years old. And they were talking about how a lot of emotion is stored in the hips also. So it's cool to see that across cultures, across the world, throughout history, humans have recognized these as like fundamental truths.
Oh, 100%. I mean, there's definitely... So another one of my jobs was I used to be close protection officer back in the 90s, like bodyguard. And as part of my and that was for my seafarers, because that was one of the worlds they were into, close protection and looking up after diplomats and whatnot. And as part of my training, I had to study religions, because in other cultures, religions are very, very important to most people. So their religion will show the way they act. So understanding the religion, will you understand how they act, or at least that's how it was taught to me. But what I also learned through religion is that when you actually look at the religions, they're all actually, their fundamental truths are all the same. And there's a lot of hints when I went to Tibet, when I went to India and studied with these people, they were actually saying the chakras, which is more of a yoga tradition, the meridians, which seems to be more in the east, the aura, we seem to think about in the west, the Merkaba, Star of David, the Torah field or flower of life, they and the Dantians or the Trinity, they originally were all one system. And when they say, a bit like in Taoism we say, where did Taoism come from? They point up. And there's a debate whether they mean from space or higher dimensions. But why, and you start seeing all these interconnections of all these different energy systems that exist, they're all part, not the same system, but just like in the physical body, we have blood and we have muscles and tendons and we have all this stuff going on. In the energy system, they have the same. They're the meridians, the chakras, the aura, the Merkaba, the Torah field, the Dantians, and they're all interlocked. And what they say is it's all one. It's all one. It's all part, it's different translations of the same thing.
Yeah, I like that. And now there's the whole concept of, there's a rebranding in the West of the energy centers, which is also the same as all these, just more scientific, if you will, as people call it. But it's really just the old ancient concepts rebranded.
Yeah, 100%. My fun one, I remember it was 20 years ago now that there was these physicists from Russia that found what they called the bioelectric energy channels of the body. And, using these cameras, they found these channels and it's all really cool and they're really excited. And these Chinese doctors were there and they were smiling away and they go, what do you mean like this? And they showed a map of the meridian system and they're exactly like where they are. And it's like, oh, thank you for finding them for us. It is like, and this is what I say about epigenetics and quantum physics. I love it because it's proving the old science. It's literally showing, well, actually, here's the evidence, And it was Einstein and Nikola Tesla and Einstein that both said magic is science not yet understood. Because like this thing we're on now, whether you're on a TV screen, whether you're watching this on a TV screen or you're listening in audio, think of 100 years ago. You'd be looked like a magician. You know, this box with pictures and sound coming from somewhere else. You know, you'd probably be burned at the stake. It's just science. It's just all science. It's just science not yet understood. But hey, what do I know?
Well, the idea of cause and effect in the Hermetic principles, and there's a book called The Kabbalion, which I read, which is really fascinating. They basically say that in cause and effect, if something looks random, it's because we don't understand all the factors that cause the outcome. And that's like one of the old principles from that line of thinking as well. And it's interesting because there's so many things in our world that we just attribute to randomness. But it's like, well, not really. If you really understood all the factors, it would make perfect sense that that was the outcome.
Yeah, what the Taoists call the lean back is that you know, like if you're up here, you know, everything's you're only seeing a certain perspective. But the more you can lean back, the more you see the bigger picture. And this is, you know, like people say, oh, you know so much stuff, and it's like, well, no, there's more to learn. There's always more to know. But the more I learn, the more my consciousness expands, the more my awareness expands, the bigger picture, you know, I see. And I was taught from a very young age is that your consciousness is unlimitless. In the Tao Te Ching, it's sort of like the like Taoist Book of Wisdom or the Taoist Bible, but Taoism is not really religious because it's an omnipresence. Everything is the one. But it talks about that, you know, the Tao that can be named is not true Tao. And it means that there's so many different principles. There's so many different ways of doing stuff. There's so much information. If you only, you know, you only got that much and your cup's that big, that's all you're going to get. But if your cup's that big, you're going to get a lot more. And you are the cup. So the more you expand your cup, the more you allow yourself to see yourself as formless, shapeless, you know, and this is Bruce Lee again, used the Taoist saying, be like water. When water goes into a cup, it becomes a cup. When water goes into a teapot, it becomes a teapot. You can go for the smallest of gaps, and enough of it can break a whole dam. You want to be anything, be water, my friend. Be like water.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, Sifu, that's a great way to wrap this one. I want to do a part 2 with you at some point because we barely tapped into all of the things we can discuss here. If people want to connect with you, to check out your work, tell me where they can find you.
Okay, so SIFUBOGGIE, Sifu Boggy. I'm on Instagram, on TikTok, on YouTube, on Facebook, but I'm also which will be in the links down below, but you can also find my mystery school, my website, which is Shun, SHUNDAO, Shundao, shundao.u screen, so the letter U and then screen.io. That's where my website is, and it's sort of like Netflix meets Discord, where it's both a video, lots of different videos, and there's a community there. But a bit like me, I'm very interactive. So there's both recorded episodes. There's hundreds of recorded episodes already, but there are live every week. There's new live classes, and if you join and go, Sifu, have you got a Qigong for earache? And the next, if you can't make the live, by the next class, you'll have a Qigong for earache and Qigong for this. And because everything has a Qigong, everything has a Tao, so therefore everything has a Qigong. So it's very interactive.
Cool. I did not realize it's that large of a library, and I love the interactive nature of it. I'm going to have to check that out.
Brilliant. Yes, I'm very interactive. I like fun. I like to play. I'm very much into my sacred child. So the idea of I learn better when it's fun, and I learn better when it's interactive. And as a lot of people have said to me, Sifu treats you like a wall, then he throws 100 things at you and see what sticks. So I don't just teach you one technique, I teach you a few, because it's up to you. You're the Sifu. You're your own Sifu. So what works best for you? It's not my job to tell you what works best for you. That's yours.
If people have been resonating with all this so far, they want to dive down the rabbit hole themselves and explore your world. Are there any resources that you find particularly helpful, whether it's books or obviously your video library? Any other educational resources?
On my approach to it, you look me up on YouTube, look me up on TikTok, Instagram or Facebook. But you could also just look up the word TAO or DAO, the Tao, the Tao. With a lot of the books, I will say, a lot of people write it in a very theoretical way. So it's all about the theory. I'm very much from a physical, a theoretical, and the scientific approach. But there is somebody called the Barefoot Doctor Stephen Russell. He passed away sadly a few years ago, but he's a friend. He was a friend of mine, and he has a similar. He comes from a similar thing about the Taoism and the Taoist approach, and it's like. For me, if anybody's taking themselves too seriously, find somebody else.
Yeah. And then for the Tao Te Ching, that's a book that's been translated a bunch of different times. I have one of them. I think it's a good translation, but are there any translations of it that you think are best, most accurate? Because with these types of things, if you mistranslate even just a little bit, you lose a lot of the value.
So one of my favorite translations of the Tao Te Ching is R.L. Wing. So R.L. Wing. This now is you'd have to get a second-hand copy, or you might be able to see it on the internet. But they do it in a really brilliant way. Is that they have it in Chinese. So you actually speak Chinese, you can actually have it there. But then they do a translation here. So it does your translation. But then they have a little note bit where you can write notes. So you can because everything's you're meant to understand it. If you can't understand it yourself, then you don't know it. So it gives you a little scribbling pad in the book where you can actually write your own translations and write through. And as you said, there's over 30 translations of the Tao Te Ching because each word means 3 to 5 things. So you're going to find lots of translations. And I would suggest look at a couple, and you are your best Sifu. So if it resonates with you, then awesome. If it doesn't, keep looking, because there is no right or wrong. It just is. So you can always find the right path for you, the right Tao. Beautiful.
And finally, any parting words of wisdom? If you want to leave people with one final thought to ponder, what would that be?
Breathe in the Qi, the light, everything you do want. Breathe out the Cha, the stress, the worry, everything you no longer need. Breathe in the Qi, breathe out the Cha, smile, relax, and you'll go far.
Beautiful. Well, Sifu, thank you so much for joining me in the podcast today.
Oh, thank you. It's been awesome.
I hope that this has been helpful for you. If you enjoyed it, subscribe and hit the thumbs up. I love knowing who's in the 1% committed to reaching their full potential. Comment 1% below so that I know who you are. For all the resources and links, meet me on my website at mindbodypeak.com. I appreciate you and look forward to connecting with you. As a reminder, the information depicted in this video is for information purposes only. Please consult your primary healthcare professional before making any lifestyle changes.